You can find peace even when nothing goes as you hoped. When you lose something, when it hurts, when life seems to have no answers. In a world that changes fast, and sometimes without warning, there are those who've discovered a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. A quiet ditcher, a deep and stable inner calm. This isn't a magic formula. It's ancient wisdom. It's Buddhism applied to real life. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 Buddhist teachings that can help you find peace in any situation, even the ones that once stole your calm. And I promise you something. If you listen with an open heart, you might begin to see your life through different eyes. Remember this: peace isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply the quiet knowing that you're exactly where you need to be. These aren't my teachings. They're wisdom that's been alive for over 2,000 years, helping countless people navigate loss, change, uncertainty, and fear. I'm simply passing them along to you. Maybe find a cozy spot, grab a warm drink if you'd like, and settle in for the next few hours. This isn't a lecture. It's more like a conversation with someone who understands what it means to struggle. If you're here, it's for a reason. Thank you for being part of this conscious community. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed how grief feels like it will never end? How in the darkest moments, you can't imagine the sun rising again? Or maybe you've experienced the opposite. A beautiful moment so perfect you wanted to freeze time, to make it stay forever. We all do this. We treat our experiences as if they're permanent. When we're suffering, we think, this is how it will always be. When we're joyful, we cling tight, terrified it will slip away. But there's a truth the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago that changes everything once you truly understand it. Everything that arises also passes. This is one of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism, and paradoxically, one of the most forgotten in the chaos of daily life. Everything that enters your life, an emotion, a situation, a loss, a joy, a mental storm, is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Not the pain, not the euphoria, not the darkest night, not the brightest light. Life is like water. It moves, it transforms, it flows. And suffering appears when we try to make it stop. Think about it. When you're going through something difficult, a breakup, an internal crisis, a loss, the teaching of impermanence isn't meant to minimize your pain. It's not saying just get over it, or don't feel sad. That would be cruel and untrue. What this teaching offers is something different. It reminds you that you are not your pain. You're experiencing something temporary, even though right now it feels eternal. We resist this truth because accepting it feels like giving up control. If everything changes, then nothing is secure. Nothing is guaranteed. And that terrifies us. So we hold on. We clench our fists around what we love, trying to keep it from leaving. We push away what hurts, trying to make it disappear faster. But neither works. The nature of reality is change. Every single thing you see, touch, feel, or think is in constant motion. Your body is changing. Right now, as you listen to this, cells are dying and being born. Your thoughts are changing. One moment here, the next moment gone. The people you love are changing. You are changing. And here's what's beautiful about this. Once you stop fighting impermanence and start understanding it, something shifts. You begin to see that this constant change isn't a curse. It's the doorway to freedom. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young monk who lived in a monastery high in the mountains. His teacher, an elderly master with kind eyes and weathered hands, had given him a ceramic cup many years before. It was a simple cup, unglazed clay, rough to the touch, the color of earth after rain. But to the young monk, it was precious. His teacher had shaped it with his own hands and given it to him on the day he took his vows. Every morning, the monk would use this cup for tea. He would hold it carefully, wash it gently, place it on a special shelf where the morning light touched it first. He loved that cup. One autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted past the windows, the monk was carrying his tea across the wooden floor of the meditation hall. His foot caught on the edge of a mat. Time seemed to slow. He watched the cup slip from his hands, turn once in the air, and shatter against the stone floor. Pieces scattered everywhere, some large, some no bigger than grains of rice. The tea pooled dark against the grey stone. The monk stood frozen, staring at the fragments, his eyes filled with tears. He carefully gathered every piece, cradling them in his robe, and went to find his teacher. The old master was sitting by the window watching the leaves fall. The monk knelt before him, opened his robe, and the broken pieces spilled out. "Master," he said, his voice breaking, "it's gone. The cup you gave me. I've broken what I loved most." The teacher looked at the shattered clay for a long moment. Then he looked at his student with infinite gentleness. "Tell me," the master said softly, "did you love the cup, or did you love the illusion that it would always be there?" The monk opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. The question settled into him like a stone dropping into still water. The master continued, his voice quiet but clear. From the moment I shaped that clay, it was already broken. Everything that comes into form is already moving toward formlessness. The cup was never permanent. Your love for it was real, but your belief that it would always exist, that was the illusion. And that illusion is what's breaking your heart right now, not the cup itself. The monk sat very still. Everything breaks eventually, the teacher said. Clay returns to earth. Bodies return to dust. Moments dissolve into memory. This isn't tragedy. It's simply the nature of existence. When you understand this deeply, you can love without terror. You can hold without grasping. You can let go without bitterness. The old master smiled then and picked up one of the larger pieces of clay. You know what this broken cup is teaching you. He turned the fragment in the light. That everything you love is precious exactly because it won't last forever. Love it now. Love it fully. And when it changes, because it will, let that love transform too. The young monk looked down at the broken pieces, and for the first time, he saw them differently. Not as a tragedy, but as a truth. This story holds one of Buddhism's deepest truths. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things, which means everything that comes into existence through causes and conditions, are impermanent. In the ancient language of Pali, the word is anicca. It's one of the 3 marks of existence that the Buddha said characterizes all of life. He didn't teach this to make us sad or nihilistic. He taught it to free us from suffering. Because when you deeply understand that everything changes, you stop demanding that life be different than it is. You stop exhausting yourself trying to make temporary things permanent. You stop living in constant fear of loss. Instead, you learn to be present with what is while it is. This is what liberation looks like in the Buddhist sense. Not escaping from change, but being at peace within it. So how do you work with this teaching in your actual life? Start by watching your emotions like you'd watch weather passing through the sky. When anger arises, notice it. Don't push it away. Don't judge yourself for feeling it, but also don't believe it will last forever. Say to yourself, this is anger, and it's changing. When sadness comes, let it be there. Feel it fully, but hold it lightly. This is sadness, and it's changing. Even joy, especially joy, practice this with. When something wonderful happens, be fully present for it. Don't cloud it by worrying about when it will end. Instead, Let yourself think, this is beautiful, and I'm here for it now, knowing it will change. There's a phrase that's helped countless people navigate difficult times. 4 simple words. This too is changing. Not, this too shall pass, which can feel dismissive, but this too is changing. It's gentler, more accurate. Because nothing passes and disappears completely. Everything transforms into something else. Your grief will change into different grief, then into memory, then into wisdom. Your anxiety will change into calm, then perhaps into other feelings, then into understanding. Nothing stays the same. And here's the paradox that makes this teaching so profound. Impermanence isn't a punishment, it's a blessing. It means that this moment, right now, the one you're living as you hear these words, is completely unique. It will never happen again in exactly this way. The sound of your breath right now is unrepeatable. The way the light falls where you are is singular. This present moment is both ordinary and absolutely sacred, precisely because it's temporary. When the Buddha taught about impermanence, he wasn't being pessimistic. He was pointing toward a deeper way of living. If you truly understand that everything changes, you start to notice what doesn't change, the awareness that watches it all, the stillness beneath the movement, the peace that exists regardless of conditions. Take a moment now. Just breathe. Think about something you're holding on to. Maybe an emotion you can't seem to let go of. Maybe a situation you're resisting. Maybe a version of yourself you're trying to keep alive, even though you've already changed. Ask yourself gently, what would it feel like to acknowledge that this is already changing? Not to force it to change, not to push it away, but simply to recognize its temporary nature. And here's the thing about this teaching, it applies to everything. Your hardest moment right now is changing. Your deepest wound is changing. Your identity is changing. Even your understanding of these words is changing as you hear them. The Buddhist path asks you to do something that feels counterintuitive, to traverse your pain rather than escape it, to feel it rather than numb it, to observe it rather than become it. Because when you stop resisting what is and start being present with it, knowing it will change, you discover a freedom that circumstances can't touch. Every time life becomes difficult, remember this teaching like a gentle friend reminding you of the truth. This is changing. And every time you experience something beautiful, remember it too. This is changing, so I'm going to be fully present for it right now. That's how impermanence becomes wisdom instead of sorrow. And this brings us naturally to a question. If everything changes, why do we suffer so much when things do? Why does change feel like loss? The answer lies in our next teaching, one that goes even deeper into the heart of human suffering. Because the pain doesn't come from change itself. It comes from how tightly we hold on, trying to stop the river from flowing. Think about someone you love, or something you treasure. Now, imagine losing it. Feel what happens in your body when you imagine that loss. The tightness in your chest, the fear that rises, the thought, I can't live without this. We've all been there. That moment when we realize how tightly we're holding on to a person, a job, a version of ourselves, a dream of how life should be. And the tighter we hold, the more it hurts. This brings us to one of the most challenging and liberating teachings in Buddhism. The Buddha said that suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from how we hold on to things, how we resist their changing, how we demand that life bend to our expectations. In other words, we don't suffer because we lose something. We suffer because we insisted it should stay. This is one of the pillars of Buddhist understanding, and it might be one of the hardest truths to accept because it confronts us directly with the root of our pain. The Buddha taught that suffering, what he called dukkha, arises from tanha, which means craving or thirst, and upadana, which means clinging or grasping. Let's be clear about what this means. It's not saying you shouldn't care about things. It's not saying you shouldn't love people. That would be a cold, inhuman teaching, and Buddhism isn't that. What it's saying is something more subtle and more profound. There's a difference between loving and clinging. Love is open. Love says, I care deeply about you, and I want you to be free, even if that freedom takes you away from me. Love is present. Love appreciates what is here now without demanding it stay forever. Clinging, on the other hand, is born from fear. Fear of loss, fear of emptiness, fear of change, fear of being without the thing or person we believe we need in order to be whole. Clinging says, you must stay exactly as you are because I've built my sense of safety around you. Clinging says, if this changes, I won't survive. And here's what happens when we live from that place of clinging. Every moment becomes tinged with anxiety. We can't fully enjoy what we have because we're terrified of losing it. We try to control people, situations, even our own feelings, desperately attempting to freeze life in place. But life won't freeze. It keeps flowing, changing, moving. And every time it does, we feel like something is being torn from our hands. The teaching isn't that you shouldn't care. The teaching is that clinging doesn't protect you from loss. It just makes you suffer before the loss even happens. Let me share a story that illuminates this. There was a monk, young, earnest, devoted to his practice. He lived in a small monastery nestled in a valley where mist gathered each morning like a blessing. His teacher was a woman known throughout the region for her wisdom, though she lived simply, owned almost nothing, and spoke rarely. One year, on the anniversary of the monk taking his vows, his teacher gave him a gift. It was a bowl, a begging bowl, made of dark wood, smooth as river stone, light as a whisper in his hands. The teacher had carved it herself over many months, and into the bottom she had etched a single lotus flower. "Use this for your practice," she told him. "Let it remind you why you're here." The monk treasured that bowl. Each morning, he would carry it through the village, receiving offerings of rice and vegetables from people who respected the monastery. Each evening, he would clean it with great care, running his fingers over the carved lotus, feeling its smooth petals. The bowl became, to him, more than an object. It was his connection to his teacher, proof of his commitment, a sacred trust. Years passed. The bowl aged beautifully, its wood darkening with time and use, taking on a deep luster. Then one winter morning, as the monk was crossing a wooden bridge over the stream that ran behind the monastery, his sandal caught on a loose board. He stumbled. The bowl flew from his hands. He watched. It felt like watching in slow motion, as the bowl arced through the cold air and disappeared into the rushing water below. The stream was swollen from recent rain, moving fast and dark. The bowl was gone in an instant, swept downstream toward the river, toward the sea, toward places he would never reach. The monk stood on the bridge, frozen. Then he fell to his knees and wept. He wept not just that day, but for days after. He couldn't eat. He couldn't meditate. He felt as though he had lost something irreplaceable, as though part of himself had been swept away with that wooden bowl. His teacher noticed, of course. She watched him move through the monastery like a ghost, his eyes distant, his practice hollow. Finally, one evening as the sun was setting, she asked him to walk with her in the garden. They walked in silence for a while, their feet crunching on the gravel path. Then the teacher stopped beside a cherry tree, its branches bare in the winter cold. "Tell me," she said gently, "what have you lost?" "The bowl you gave me," the monk said, his voice breaking. "The one you made with your own hands. It's gone." "I see," the teacher said. She looked up at the bare branches above them. "And what did that bowl mean to you?" "Everything," he whispered. "It meant I was worthy. It meant you believed in me. It meant I belonged here." The teacher turned to him then, and her eyes were infinitely kind. "My dear student," she said, "you never needed that bowl to be worthy. You don't need any object to prove you belong. What you're grieving isn't the bowl. It's the illusion that your value depended on possessing it." The monk looked at her, tears streaming down his face. "I carved that bowl with love," the teacher continued, "and I gave it to you with love. But I never gave you your worthiness. You already had that. The bowl was just a bowl. Beautiful, yes. Useful, yes. But in the end, just a piece of wood that came from a tree and will eventually return to the earth, one way or another." She touched his shoulder gently. "You transformed that bowl into something else in your mind, into proof, into security, into identity. And then when the bowl did what all physical things do, changed, moved, disappeared, you felt like you were losing yourself. But you're still here. You're still whole. Nothing essential has been lost." The monk stood very still, letting her words sink in. "This is what attachment does," the teacher said softly. "It takes our love, our care, our appreciation, all beautiful things, and adds fear to them. It says, 'I must keep this forever, or I will be destroyed.' And that fear poisons every moment, turning love into desperation, turning appreciation into anxiety." She paused, looking at the bare tree again. "In spring, this tree will bloom. The blossoms will be exquisite. And then they will fall. If I clung to each petal, demanding its stay, I would suffer endlessly. But if I appreciate the blossoms while they're here, knowing they'll fall, I can experience their beauty fully, maybe even more fully, because I know they're temporary." The monk looked up at the branches, seeing them differently. "Can you love without clinging?" the teacher asked. "Can you appreciate without demanding? Can you hold something precious with an open hand?" These questions go to the heart of Buddhist practice. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is this clinging, this tanha that never feels satisfied. We crave pleasant experiences and cling to them when they come, trying to make them last. We crave to avoid unpleasant experiences, clinging to the hope that we can control what we feel. We even cling to our own sense of self, terrified of changing, aging, becoming someone we don't recognize. And all of this clinging creates dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness, a constant underlying anxiety that life isn't quite right because it won't stay still. The freedom the Buddha pointed to isn't about not caring. It's about caring deeply while holding lightly. So how do you practice this in your actual life? Start by noticing where you're clinging right now. What are you afraid to lose? Not just physical things, but ideas about yourself, relationships, identities, expectations about how your life should look. When you notice that clinging, that tight grip of fear, see if you can soften it just a little. Not by forcing yourself not to care, but by remembering the truth. Everything changes, and your clinging can't stop that. It can only make the changing more painful. Practice appreciation instead of grasping. When you're with someone you love, instead of thinking, "I can't lose this person," try thinking, "I'm grateful. This person is here right now." Feel the difference? One creates anxiety. The other creates presence. When you have something good in your life, a job you enjoy, a place you love living, a moment of peace, let yourself appreciate it fully without immediately worrying about when it will end. The worry doesn't protect you. It just steals the joy from now. And here's something important. Practicing non-attachment doesn't mean you won't feel sadness when things change. You will. You're human. Loss hurts. But there's a difference between clean pain and suffering. Clean pain is the natural grief that comes when something ends. It's honest. It moves through you. It eventually transforms. Suffering is what we add on top. The resistance, the "this shouldn't have happened," the clinging to what's already gone, the belief that we can't survive without what we've lost. The Buddhist path invites you to feel the clean pain without adding the suffering. To grieve without demanding that life be different than it is. To love without making your peace dependent on things staying the same. Take a moment now. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I holding too tightly right now? What am I clinging to out of fear? And then, very gently, see if you can imagine holding that same thing with an open hand instead of a closed fist. Not letting go completely, but holding lightly, with love instead of fear. This practice, learning to love without clinging, is one of the most beautiful and difficult aspects of the Buddhist path. It asks you to be vulnerable, to admit you can't control everything, to trust that you'll be okay, even when things change. And the freedom it offers is extraordinary. When you stop clinging, you stop suffering before loss even happens. You start experiencing life as it is, not as you desperately need it to be. You discover that you can be open-hearted and protected at the same time, not by walls, but by understanding. Which brings us to the next question. If we can't find lasting peace in external things, and if clinging only creates suffering, where do we look for stability? The answer might surprise you, because it's closer than you think. Where have you been looking for peace? Maybe in the approval of others, hoping that if enough people validate you, you'll finally feel okay. Maybe in success, believing that the next achievement will bring the calm you're searching for. Maybe in a relationship, thinking that the right person will complete you. Maybe in perfect conditions, the right job, the right home, the right circumstances, certain that when everything aligns externally, you'll finally feel settled inside. We all do this. We look outside ourselves for an inner experience. And we exhaust ourselves in the search. We chase, we strive, we rearrange our external world over and over, convinced that if we just get it right out there, we'll feel right in here. But something strange happens. Even when we get what we wanted, the approval, the success, the relationship, the perfect circumstances, the peace doesn't come. Or it comes briefly, then evaporates, leaving us searching again. This brings us to a teaching that, in a world oriented entirely outward, feels almost revolutionary. Peace doesn't come from external conditions. It never has, and it never will. Peace is an inside experience, and if you don't cultivate it internally, nothing external can deliver it to you, no matter how perfectly your life is arranged. The Buddha taught this clearly. He said we must be our own refuge, our own island of stability in the changing tides of life. The Pali word is attadipa. Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own shelter. This doesn't mean you don't need other people, or that you should isolate yourself. It means something deeper, your fundamental sense of okay-ness, your basic peace, cannot depend on circumstances beyond your control. Think about it. If your peace depends on your job, what happens when the job changes? If your peace depends on someone loving you, what happens when that relationship shifts? If your peace depends on your body being a certain way, what happens as your body ages and changes? You become a leaf blown by every wind. constantly unstable, constantly anxious, constantly seeking the next external fix that will finally make everything okay. External things, jobs, relationships, achievements, possessions, they're all impermanent, as we've already explored. Building your peace on them is like building a house on shifting sand. You can spend your whole life constructing it, but it will never feel solid because the foundation isn't stable. The Buddhist path asks you to do something radically different. To turn inward. To cultivate peace as an internal practice, not as an external achievement. But how? In a culture that trains us from birth to look outside ourselves for answers, how do we learn to find stability within? Let me share a story. There was a disciple who had been practicing for several years, studying texts, performing rituals, following every instruction his teacher gave. But despite all his efforts, he felt restless, unsettled, like something essential was missing. One day, unable to bear the agitation any longer, he went to his teacher. "Master," he said, "I've done everything you've asked. I wake early, I meditate, I study, I practice kindness, but I still don't have peace. Where can I find it? Should I travel to the sacred mountains? Should I study with different teachers? Tell me where to go, and I'll go there." The teacher looked at him for a long moment. Then, without speaking, he reached out and gently placed his hand on the disciple's chest, right over his heart. "The peace you're seeking," the teacher said quietly, "isn't in the sacred mountains. It isn't in ancient texts. It isn't in the approval of teachers or the achievement of states. It's here, right here, where my hand rests now." The disciple looked confused. "But I don't feel it there," he said. "I know," the teacher replied. "That's because you've never stopped running long enough to notice it. Close your eyes. Don't go anywhere. Just be here." The disciple closed his eyes, still feeling the warmth of his teacher's hand on his chest. "Now," the teacher said, "feel your breath. Just the simple movement of air coming in, air going out. Don't try to breathe in any special way. Just notice what's already happening." The disciple brought his attention to his breath. At first, his mind immediately wandered to his plans, his worries, his endless list of things he thought he needed to do or be or achieve. "Come back," the teacher said softly. "Just breath. This moment. Nothing else." Slowly, gradually, the disciple's awareness settled into the rhythm of breathing. In, out, in, out. And as he stayed there, not going anywhere, not trying to fix anything, not seeking anything outside this simple experience, something shifted. Beneath all the noise of his thoughts, beneath all the restlessness and seeking, there was a stillness. It had been there all along, like the quiet depths of the ocean beneath the surface waves. When he opened his eyes, tears were streaming down his face. "It was here, the whole time," he whispered. "Yes," the teacher said, smiling gently. "It's always here. You are the peace you've been seeking. But you have to stop running toward it and start being it." This is what the Buddha meant when he taught that we must be our own refuge. There's a famous teaching where he said, "Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Seek no outside refuge." He wasn't saying don't learn from teachers or don't find support in community. He was saying something more fundamental. No one else can give you your peace. No external circumstance can deliver it. You have to discover it within yourself, cultivate it as a practice, and learn to access it regardless of what's happening around you. Your inner space is like a temple. But if you never enter it, if you spend all your time trying to perfect the exterior world, you'll never know the sanctuary that already exists inside you. And here's what's beautiful about this teaching. It's not asking you to create something new. The peace is already there. You don't have to manufacture it, or earn it, or achieve it. You just have to stop abandoning yourself long enough to notice it. So how do you practice this? Start by creating what I call sacred pauses throughout your day. These are moments where you deliberately stop the outward motion and come back to yourself. It can be as simple as closing your eyes for 30 seconds and taking 3 conscious breaths. Just breathing, noticing the air moving in and out, feeling your body alive and present. When you feel scattered or anxious or lost, instead of immediately reaching for your phone or a distraction or trying to fix something external, pause. Place your hand on your chest, like the teacher in the story, and ask yourself, can I come home for a moment? Home isn't a place out there. Home is the awareness that's always here, witnessing everything, unchanging, even as everything changes around it. Your breath is your most reliable doorway back to this inner refuge. Not because breathing is magical, but because it's always happening right now, in this moment, in your body. When you bring your attention to your breath, you're automatically bringing yourself into the present moment, into your body, into the only place where peace actually exists. Try it right now. Take a breath and really feel it. Feel the cool air entering your nose, the expansion of your lungs, the gentle release as you exhale. Notice how, in this moment of simple awareness, the endless mental chatter quiets just a little. That quiet, that's your inner refuge. It's not dramatic or flashy. It's subtle, like the sky behind the clouds. But it's always there, and it's more reliable than any external condition could ever be. Another practice. When you find yourself seeking peace in external validation, waiting for someone to tell you you're doing well, you're enough, you're okay, notice that seeking. Then turn inward and say to yourself, I can validate my own experience. I can witness my own worth. I don't need anyone else to tell me I'm allowed to be at peace. This isn't about becoming cold or self-sufficient in an isolated way. It's about developing a core stability that doesn't crumble every time external circumstances shift. When you cultivate peace internally, something remarkable happens. You stop being so desperate for external things to be perfect. You can appreciate them when they're good, without depending on them for your fundamental okayness. You can navigate challenges without falling apart, because your center of gravity is inside you, not outside. Think about the ocean again. On the surface, there might be storms, huge waves crashing, chaos, and turbulence. But deep below, in the depths, there's a profound stillness. The storms don't reach down there. That deep stillness, that's what lives inside you. The storms of life will come. They always do. But when you know how to sink into your depths, you discover that the storms can't touch your fundamental peace. Take a moment now. Just breathe. Where have you been looking for peace lately? What external thing have you been thinking will finally make you feel okay? And what would it feel like to stop seeking out there and start cultivating in here? Not as a rejection of the world, but as a foundation that allows you to engage with the world from a place of stability instead of desperate need. This is what it means to be your own refuge. To carry your peace with you wherever you go, not because circumstances are perfect, but because you've learned to access the stillness that lives beneath all circumstances. And when you develop this inner refuge, something else becomes possible. You start to recognize that the way you relate to life, the thoughts you think, The stories you tell yourself shapes your experience more than the external facts ever could. Which is exactly what the next teaching explores. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself. Right now, in the quiet of your own mind, what's the conversation happening? Are you criticizing yourself for something you did or didn't do? Are you rehearsing old resentments? Are you worrying about the future, playing out scenarios of what might go wrong? Most of us aren't even aware of this constant internal dialogue. But it's there, running like background music we've learned to tune out. And here's what the Buddha understood 2,500 years ago. These thoughts aren't neutral. They're not just passing clouds with no impact. Every thought you think repeatedly is creating a pathway in your mind. Like water running down a hill, always taking the same route, eventually carving a channel that becomes deeper and deeper over time. Think about it this way. If you habitually think, "I'm not good enough," that thought doesn't just come and go. Each time you repeat it, you're strengthening that neural pathway, making it easier for that thought to arise again, until eventually it becomes your default setting, the lens through which you see yourself and your life. This is what the Buddha was pointing to when he taught about mind cultivation, or citta bhavana in Pali. Your mind is like a garden, and you are its gardener. But here's the crucial part. If you don't tend it consciously, it won't stay empty. It will grow whatever seeds happen to blow in. Weeds of worry, thorns of resentment, tangles of fear. The Buddhist understanding of this is very specific, and it's important we get it right, because this teaching is often misunderstood in modern spiritual culture. The Buddha taught about karma, but not in the way most people think. Karma isn't some cosmic force that rewards good people and punishes bad ones. Karma simply means action and its consequences. And mental actions, your thoughts, your intentions, your habitual ways of relating to experience, these create karma just as surely as physical actions do. But here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that if you think positive thoughts, the universe will magically deliver positive outcomes. It doesn't mean you can manifest your reality by visualization or affirmations. That's not Buddhism. That's modern manifestation culture, and they're very different things. What the Buddha actually taught is this: the way you train your mind determines the kind of person you become, and the kind of person you become determines how you experience your life. Let me say that again, because it's important. Training your mind doesn't change external reality. It changes your relationship to reality. And changing that relationship changes everything about how you move through the world. A mind trained in anger will experience a different life than a mind trained in compassion, not because the external circumstances are different, but because the person experiencing those circumstances is different. There's an old story that illustrates this perfectly. There was a disciple who complained constantly. Everything was wrong. The weather was too hot or too cold. The food was too plain or too rich. Other practitioners were too noisy or too distant. His teacher was too demanding. The practice was too difficult. Nothing was ever quite right. One morning, after listening to yet another litany of complaints, the teacher invited the disciple to walk with him in the monastery garden. It was early spring, and the garden was just beginning to wake up after winter. They walked in silence until they reached a patch of earth that had been freshly turned, dark and rich, ready for planting. The teacher knelt down and scooped up a handful of soil. He let it run through his fingers slowly, then looked up at his student. "Tell me," he said, "what do you see when you look at this garden?" The disciple glanced around. "I see that the fence needs repair," he said. "And those plants over there are dying. And someone left tools scattered everywhere." The teacher nodded slowly. "Now look at this soil in my hand," he said. "What could grow here?" "Anything, I suppose," the disciple said, not understanding the point. "Exactly," the teacher replied. "This soil doesn't judge what we plant in it. If we plant weeds, it will grow weeds. If we plant flowers, it will grow flowers. The soil is neutral. It simply nourishes whatever seeds we give it." He stood up, brushing the dirt from his hands. "Your mind is like this soil," he said gently. "Every thought you think is a seed. Every complaint, every criticism, every anxious worry, these are seeds you're planting in the garden of your mind. And your mind, like this soil, doesn't judge. It simply grows whatever you plant." The disciple stood very still, beginning to understand. "You've been planting seeds of dissatisfaction for so long that now your whole inner garden is overgrown with it," the teacher continued. "And then you wonder why you can't find any peace, why everything feels wrong. It's not that your life is wrong. It's that you've cultivated a mind that sees wrong everywhere." "But what can I do?" the disciple asked, and for the first time there was no complaint in his voice, just honest questioning. "Plant new seeds," the teacher said simply. "Start paying attention to what you're cultivating. When a thought of complaint arises, notice it. Don't judge yourself for it. Just see it clearly. Then choose, do I water this seed, or do I let it wither and plant something else instead? This is the essence of what the Buddha meant when he said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts." He wasn't talking about magical thinking. He was talking about character formation, about the gradual process by which repeated thoughts become habitual patterns, which become personality traits, which become the very texture of who you are. A person who habitually thinks suspicious thoughts becomes a suspicious person. A person who habitually cultivates gratitude becomes a grateful person. Not because thoughts magically change external reality, but because thoughts shape the mind, doing the experiencing. In traditional Buddhism, this is called guarding the mind gates. Just as a gatekeeper at a city entrance decides who to let in and who to turn away, you can develop the capacity to notice what thoughts are arriving at your mind's gate and choose which ones to admit. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to think happy thoughts all the time or suppressing difficult emotions. That would be spiritual bypassing, and it doesn't work. What it means is developing awareness of your mental habits and consciously choosing to cultivate wholesome states, what Buddhism calls kusala citta. Wholesome mental states are those that lead toward freedom, peace, and clarity, kindness, patience, curiosity, compassion, contentment, clear seeing. Unwholesome mental states are those that lead towards suffering, hatred, greed, delusion, jealousy, anxiety, resentment. And here's the key. You develop these states through practice, through training, through cultivation. This is what meditation actually is, not a way to manifest things or achieve special states, but a training ground for the mind. When you sit in meditation and notice your mind wandering to worry, then gently bring it back to the breath. You're not just relaxing. You're training your mind to recognize when it's been hijacked by habitual patterns and return to presence. You're weakening the pathway of worry and strengthening the pathway of awareness. Do this enough times, and it becomes easier. Not because you're controlling your thoughts, but because you're training your mind to operate differently. So how do you practice this in daily life? Start by simply observing your thought patterns without judgment. For one day, try to notice what kinds of thoughts dominate your mental landscape. Are they worried thoughts, critical thoughts, comparative thoughts, planning thoughts? Just notice, like a scientist observing data. No shame, no criticism, just clear seeing. Oh, I'm thinking anxious thoughts about tomorrow. Interesting. This awareness itself is transformative. You can't change what you don't see, and most of us are completely unconscious of our habitual thought patterns. Once you start seeing your patterns, you can begin choosing differently. When you notice yourself spiraling into worry, you can pause and ask, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it leading me toward peace or suffering? If it's not helpful, you don't have to fight it or suppress it. Just acknowledge it. Hello, worry, I see you. And then consciously redirect your attention to something wholesome. Maybe to your breath. Maybe to gratitude for something present in your life right now. Maybe to compassion for yourself for feeling worried. This is planting new seeds. One conscious choice at a time. And here's what's important to understand. This isn't about achieving some perfect mental state where you never have difficult thoughts. That's not the goal, and it's not realistic. The goal is to train your mind so that difficult thoughts don't rule you, don't define you, don't trap you in endless suffering. Think of it like physical fitness. If you train your body, you don't become immune to tiredness, but you develop strength and endurance that let you move through the world differently. Same with the mind. You train it not to eliminate all difficulty, but to develop the capacity to meet difficulty with wisdom instead of reactivity. The Buddha said that an untrained mind is our greatest enemy, but a trained mind is our greatest friend. And the training happens here, in the garden of daily thoughts, one seed at a time. Take a moment now. Just breathe and notice. What seeds have you been planting in your mental garden? What thoughts do you water with your attention every day? And if you could plant something new, a thought of kindness toward yourself, a moment of presence, a seed of peace, what would you choose? This practice of tending your mind isn't separate from spiritual awakening. It is spiritual awakening, happening in the ordinary moments of choosing awareness over automaticity. And as you learn to tend your mind with more care, you'll notice something else shifting, your relationship to time itself. Because a mind trained in presence naturally discovers where real life actually happens, which is exactly what we'll explore next. Where are you right now? Not physically. I know you're listening to this, probably in your home or your car or while you're walking. But where is your mind? Are you fully here, present with these words, or is part of you already thinking about what you need to do later? Are you replaying something that happened yesterday, turning it over in your mind, wishing it had gone differently? Are you planning tomorrow, next week, next year, living in a future that hasn't arrived yet. Here's something startling. Most of us spend almost no time actually here. We're physically present, but our minds are everywhere else, trapped in the past that's already gone, or anxiously reaching toward a future that hasn't happened yet. And meanwhile, life, actual life, the only life that's real, is passing by unnoticed. Imagine sitting across from someone you love, someone you haven't seen in a long time. They're telling you something important, looking right at you, and you're nodding, saying, but you're not really there. Your mind is on your phone, on work, on the argument you had that morning, on what you're going to say next. The person is right there. The moment is happening, but you're missing it, lost in thoughts about moments that aren't actually occurring. This is the human condition, the Buddha observed. We live everywhere, except where life is actually happening, which is right here, right now, in this present moment. And he taught something radical. This moment, this breath, this exact experience you're having right now, this is your life. Not the moment you're remembering from the past. Not the moment you're hoping for in the future. This one. This is it. Everything else is a story in your mind. Think about the past for a moment. Where is it? It's not actually anywhere, except in your memory, in your thoughts about what happened. Yes, things occurred. That's not in question. But the past itself doesn't exist right now, except as a mental construct, a story you're telling yourself in the present moment. And the future, where is that? It hasn't happened yet. It exists only as imagination, projection, worry, hope, all of which are happening now, in your mind, in this present moment. The only thing that actually exists is now. The Buddha called this awareness sati in Pali, usually translated as mindfulness, though a more literal translation would be remembering or recollection. Not remembering the past, but remembering to be present, remembering to come back to this moment, again and again. This teaching of present moment awareness, sati, is so central to the Buddhist path that it's one of the steps of the Eightfold Path itself, called right mindfulness. It's not a side practice or an optional technique. It's considered essential to awakening. Why? Because suffering happens when we're not present. When you're lost in thoughts about the past, you suffer with regret, with shame, with resentment, with nostalgia for what's gone. When you're lost in thoughts about the future, you suffer with anxiety, with fear, with endless planning to avoid imagined disasters. But in this actual moment, right now, without the story, are you okay? Not is your life okay, not is your situation okay, but right now, in this breath, in this moment of being alive, are you okay? Usually, the answer is yes. In the present moment, without the weight of past and future, there's just this: breathing, hearing, sensing, being. And that, in itself, is enough. There's a story I love that captures this teaching perfectly. A student had been practicing meditation for several months, sitting every morning, following his breath, trying to quiet his mind. But he felt like he was failing. His mind wandered constantly to his work, his relationships, his worries, his plans. He couldn't stay present for more than a few seconds at a time. Frustrated, he went to his teacher one afternoon. The teacher was sitting in the garden, watching birds move through the branches of a plum tree. "Master," the student said, sitting down beside him, "I can't do it. I try to be present, but my mind is always somewhere else. When I'm meditating, I'm thinking about my work. When I'm working, I'm thinking about meditating. When I'm eating, I'm planning what to do next. I'm never actually where I am." The teacher was quiet for a moment, still watching the birds. Then he turned to his student and asked simply, "Where are you right now?" The student blinked, confused by the question. "Here, master. In the garden with you." "And your mind?" the teacher asked gently. "Where is it?" The student paused, "Thinking about what you're going to say next," he admitted. "And worrying about whether I'm answering correctly. And feeling frustrated that I can't just be present." "So you're not here at all," the teacher said, but there was no judgment in his voice, only kindness. "Your body is here in the garden, but you are somewhere else entirely, in the future, in thoughts about yourself, in stories about your inadequacy." The student nodded, feeling the truth of it. "Here is what I want you to understand," the teacher said, turning to face him fully. "Every time your mind wanders, and it will wander, that's what minds do, you have a choice. You can stay lost in the thoughts, living in the past or future, or you can notice you've wandered and come back. Right here, right now, to this breath, to this moment. That returning, that's the practice. He gestured to the birds in the tree. "Watch them for a moment," he said. The student turned his attention to the birds. They were hopping from branch to branch, occasionally flying to another tree, then returning, completely absorbed in the present moment of being alive. "They're not worried about the nest they built last year," the teacher said softly. "They're not anxious about where they'll find food tomorrow. They're just here, doing what needs to be done, fully present with life as it is." This is what humans have forgotten: how to be where we are. The student watched the birds, and slowly, his mind began to settle into the watching. The sounds of the garden grew clearer, leaves rustling, a distant stream, his own breathing. For just a few moments, he wasn't anywhere else. He was here. "There," the teacher said, noticing the shift. "That's it. You just touched the present moment. If you can do it once, you can do it again. And again. Until being present becomes more natural than being lost." This is the practice the Buddha taught. Not achieving some perfect state of constant presence, but simply returning. Again and again, bringing yourself back from wherever your mind has wandered to where life actually is, here, now. The Buddha said it clearly: do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. He wasn't saying don't learn from the past or don't plan for the future. Both have their place. He was saying, don't live there. Don't abandon the only moment you actually have in favor of moments that exist only in your mind. Because here's the profound truth. Past and future are not wrong, but they're not real in the way this moment is real. They're mental constructs, thoughts happening now. And when you're lost in those thoughts, you're essentially living in an imaginary world while actual life unfolds unnoticed. The liberation the Buddha pointed to happens in the present moment. Not because the present moment is always pleasant, it's not. But because in the present moment, without the story, you can meet what is with awareness instead of reactivity. In the present moment, you can respond to life instead of being swept away by conditioned patterns. In the present moment, you have access to choice, to clarity, to the peace that exists beneath thoughts. So how do you practice this? Start simple. Right now, as you're listening to this, bring your full attention to your breath. Not changing it, not controlling it, just noticing it. The cool air entering your nostrils, the expansion of your chest, the gentle release of the exhale. This breath is happening right now. It's the most reliable doorway back to the present moment that you have. Throughout your day, pause and take 3 conscious breaths. Just 3. Fully aware of each one, letting everything else fade into the background for just those few seconds. When you're eating, actually taste your food. Notice the texture, the temperature, the flavors. How often do you eat an entire meal without really tasting a single bite because your mind is elsewhere? When you're with someone, practice being fully there. Not formulating your response while they're still talking. Not checking your phone. Just listening, present, here with this person in this moment. The Buddha taught a formal practice called the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of mind, and mindfulness of Dharma. But at its core, it's all the same practice, bringing clear awareness to what's actually happening right now. Mindfulness of body, noticing sensations, breath, posture, movement as they occur. Mindfulness of feelings, recognizing pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tones in your experience without getting lost in them. Mindfulness of mind, observing the state of your mind, scattered or calm, anxious or peaceful, without judgment. Mindfulness of Dharma, seeing the patterns, the teachings, the truth of how things are in your direct experience. All of this happens here, now. Never in the past. Never in the future. Always in this moment. And here's what's beautiful. The present moment is always available. No matter how lost you've been, no matter how far you've wandered into thoughts about past or future, you can always come back. Right now, this breath, here. Take a moment now and just be present. Not thinking about being present, but actually being it. Feel your body where it's supported. Hear the sounds around you without naming them. Notice you're alive, right here, right now. This moment, this is your life. Not the life you remember. Not the life you're planning. This one. And it's enough. When you truly understand this, when you begin to live from this awareness, more and more, something remarkable happens. You start to see other people differently too. You start to recognize that everyone, just like you, is struggling and seeking in their own way. And that recognition opens the door to something the Buddha considered essential: compassion. Which brings us to perhaps one of the most transformative teachings of all: understanding the universal nature of suffering and our shared longing for peace. Think of someone who's hurt you. Someone who's been difficult, unkind, maybe even cruel. Someone whose behavior you just can't understand. Now imagine this. What if that person was acting that way because they were in pain? Not as an excuse. Pain doesn't excuse harm, but as an explanation. What if, beneath their angry words or cold distance or hurtful actions, there was suffering they didn't know how to handle? This is one of the most challenging and transformative teachings the Buddha offered. He taught that every single being, without exception, is trying to avoid suffering and find some sense of peace. Every single one. The person who cut you off in traffic, who snapped at you, who betrayed your trust, who can't seem to show up the way you need them to. They're all doing the best they know how to do, with the level of understanding they have, trying to escape their own pain. Most of the time, they're doing it badly. Most of the time, their attempts to avoid their own suffering create suffering for others. But they're still just trying to be okay, just like you are. This understanding is the foundation of what Buddhism calls karuna, compassion. Not the superficial thoughts and prayers kind of compassion, but a deep, clear seeing of the truth that all beings share the same fundamental experience. We all know what it's like to hurt, and we all want that hurt to stop. The Buddha's first noble truth, that life involves suffering, dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness, doesn't just apply to you. It applies to everyone. The person who seems to have everything together is suffering in ways you can't see. The person who hurt you is suffering. That's often why they lashed out. The stranger, the friend, the family member, the person you'll never meet, all of them know the taste of dukkha. All of them are trying to find their way through it. This isn't a romantic idea or wishful thinking. It's simply true. And when you begin to see this truth clearly, something profound shifts in how you relate to others. You stop taking things so personally. You start recognizing that most of the time, people's behavior has very little to do with you and everything to do with their own internal struggle. You develop what the Buddha called the mind of great compassion, the ability to hold the suffering of others with understanding, even when their suffering has caused you harm. Let me be clear about something important. Compassion doesn't mean letting people hurt you. It doesn't mean staying in harmful situations. or excusing bad behavior. Boundaries are essential, and protecting yourself is wise. Compassion means understanding the suffering behind the behavior without taking on that suffering yourself or allowing it to continue affecting you. There's a story that illuminates this beautifully. A young woman came to see a teacher, carrying years of resentment toward her father. He had been cold, critical, emotionally distant throughout her childhood. No matter what she achieved, it was never enough. No matter how hard she tried to earn his approval, he remained unmoved. "I can't forgive him," she told the teacher, tears streaming down her face. "He took away my childhood. He made me feel worthless. How am I supposed to just let that go?" The teacher listened with complete attention, letting her pain fill the space between them. Then she asked gently, "Do you know your father's story?" "What do you mean?" the woman asked. "His childhood," the teacher said. "The people who raised him. The pain he experienced before you were even born." The woman shook her head. "He never talked about it. He never talked about anything real." The teacher nodded. "That's part of the story right there," she said. Someone taught him not to talk about real things. Someone taught him that emotions were dangerous, that vulnerability was weakness. Someone hurt him in ways that made him lock his heart away. The woman sat very still, something shifting in her understanding. "I'm not asking you to excuse what he did," the teacher continued. "Your pain is real. The harm he caused is real. But beneath his coldness, there was suffering. He was doing to you what was done to him, not because he didn't love you, but because he didn't know how to love in any other way." She paused, letting those words settle. "Think about it this way," the teacher said. "If someone is drowning and in their panic they push you underwater trying to save themselves, they're not evil, they're terrified. The pushing is still harmful, and you still need to get away to protect yourself. But understanding that they were drowning changes how you hold the experience. Your father was drowning in his own suffering his whole life. He never learned to swim. And in his panic, in his desperate attempts to stay afloat, he pushed you down. Not because you deserved it, but because he didn't know what else to do." Tears continued to fall, but the woman's face had softened. "What pain was he carrying?" she whispered. "I don't know," the teacher said honestly. "But he was carrying something heavy enough to close his heart to his own child." Can you imagine that level of pain? Can you imagine being so hurt yourself that you become unable to show love to the person you love most. The woman closed her eyes. And in that moment, something remarkable happened. For the first time in her life, she saw her father not as the powerful figure who had dominated her childhood, but as a suffering human being doing his inadequate best with profound wounds he never healed. The resentment didn't disappear immediately. Healing doesn't work that way. But it had begun to transform. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught compassion. He said, "Just as I wish to be free from suffering and fear, just as I wish to be at peace, so do all beings." Every person you meet is carrying this same wish. The wish to feel okay, to be safe, to find some measure of peace in a difficult world. They're just going about it in different ways, some wise, some unskillful, some destructive, but the underlying wish is universal. When you truly understand this, you can't hate in quite the same way anymore. You can still set boundaries, still protect yourself, still refuse to accept harmful behavior. But underneath those necessary actions, there's a recognition this person is suffering too. This doesn't make you weak or passive. In fact, it makes you clearer. Because when you're not caught up in reactive anger or fear, you can respond to situations more wisely. Buddhism teaches a practice called metta, loving kindness, that helps cultivate this understanding. It's simple but profound. You start by offering kind wishes to yourself. May I be free from suffering. May I be at peace. May I be safe. Then you extend those same wishes to someone you love. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. May you be safe. Then, and this is where it gets challenging, you extend those wishes to a neutral person, someone you neither like nor dislike. Then to someone difficult. And eventually, to all beings everywhere. The practice isn't about forcing yourself to feel love for people who've harmed you. It's about recognizing the shared truth. We all want to be free from pain. We all deserve peace, even when we're not skillful at finding it. This practice changes you from the inside out. You start to see people with more clarity and less judgment. You recognize suffering in its many disguises: anger, arrogance, coldness, cruelty, and you understand that these are all just clumsy attempts to protect a wounded heart. Now, here's something crucial. Having compassion doesn't mean allowing harm to continue. If someone is treating you badly, compassion might look like setting a firm boundary I understand you're hurting, but I can't allow this behavior to affect me anymore. Compassion isn't about being a doormat. It's about seeing clearly and responding with wisdom instead of reactive emotion. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is walk away from someone whose suffering is spilling over as harm. You can wish them well from a distance while protecting your own peace. Understanding why someone acts a certain way doesn't mean you have to accept being treated that way. You can hold both truths at once. They're suffering, and I deserve better. This is mature compassion, compassionate to others, and compassionate to yourself. Take a moment now and think of someone who's been difficult in your life. Instead of focusing on what they did, ask yourself, what pain might they be carrying? What suffering might be driving their behavior? This doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't make it okay. But it might help you see them and the situation with more clarity and less personal anguish. When you recognize that everyone is fighting a battle you can't see, your heart naturally softens. Not in a way that makes you vulnerable to harm, but in a way that makes you wiser, kinder, more free. Because when you stop taking everyone's behavior personally and start recognizing the universal struggle beneath it, you lighten your own burden tremendously. And this understanding naturally leads to the next question. If everyone is struggling in their own way, who's responsible for your inner peace? Who tends the garden of your own mind? That's what we'll explore next. The practice of taking full responsibility for your mental and emotional landscape. Something happens that upsets you. Someone says something thoughtless, or a situation doesn't go your way, or you make a mistake. And immediately, your mind launches into a familiar pattern. Blame. They made me angry. This situation is making me anxious. Life is making me miserable. We do this automatically, don't we? We point to external circumstances and say, "That's why I feel this way. That person, that event, that reality, they're responsible for my inner state." And here's where Buddhism offers something uncomfortable but ultimately liberating. You're not to blame for everything you think and feel. Many mental patterns are conditioned, inherited, habitual. But you are responsible for what you do with those thoughts and feelings, once you become aware of them. There's a crucial difference between blame and responsibility. Blame says, "It's my fault. I'm bad. I should be ashamed." That's not helpful, and it's not what the Buddha taught. Responsibility says, "This is my mind. These are my thoughts, and I have agency in how I relate to them. That's empowering. No one else can enter your mind and arrange your thoughts for you. No one else can make you peaceful or make you suffer, though they can certainly create conditions that make peace or suffering more likely. But ultimately, your internal experience is your domain. You're the guardian at the gate. This teaching might feel harsh at first. It can feel like you're being told that your suffering is your own fault. But that's not what this means. What it means is this: you have more power than you think. In Buddhism, there's a practice called right effort, samavayama in Pali, and it's one of the 8 steps of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort isn't about straining or forcing or white-knuckling your way through life. It's about tending your mind with wisdom and care. The Buddha described 4 aspects of right effort. First, preventing unwholesome mental states from arising. This means recognizing the conditions that tend to lead you into suffering, certain situations, certain people, certain thought patterns, and being mindful about how you engage with those conditions. Second, abandoning unwholesome mental states that have already arisen. When you notice you're caught in anger, in jealousy, in harsh self-criticism, you have the capacity to recognize it and let it go rather than feeding it. Third, cultivating wholesome mental states. This means actively developing peace, compassion, clarity, contentment, not waiting for them to arise accidentally, but intentionally nurturing them. Fourth, maintaining wholesome mental states that are already present. When you find yourself in a state of calm or clarity or kindness, you can choose to stay there, to protect it, to let it deepen. None of this is about controlling your thoughts. You can't do that, and trying will only create more suffering. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts and choosing how to respond to them. You're not the author of every thought that appears, but you are the guardian who decides which thoughts to invite in, which to acknowledge and release, and which to cultivate. Let me share a teaching that makes this clearer. A student came to his teacher, troubled by intrusive thoughts. Dark thoughts, anxious thoughts, thoughts he felt ashamed of having. "Master," he said, "I must be a terrible person. These thoughts keep coming into my mind, and I don't want them there. I try to push them away, but they keep returning. What's wrong with me?" The teacher took the student outside and pointed to the sky. It was a day of scattered clouds, some white and light, some dark and heavy. all drifting across the blue expanse. "Tell me," the teacher said, "is the sky responsible for the clouds that pass through it?" The student looked up, confused by the question. "No, master. The sky is just there. The clouds come and go." "Exactly," the teacher said. "Your mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. They arise from conditions. They pass through. They dissolve. Some are light and pleasant. Some are dark and troubling. But you are not your thoughts any more than the sky is the clouds." The student felt something ease in his chest. "The problem," the teacher continued, "is not that clouds appear. That's natural. That's what skies do. They have clouds passing through. The problem is when you build houses for certain clouds. When you say, 'This cloud is mine, I must keep it. I must think about it constantly. I must let it define me.'" He paused, letting the student absorb this. A thought appears. That's like a cloud arriving. You can't always control which clouds show up. But you can choose whether to grasp that thought, to ruminate on it, to build it an elaborate dwelling in your mind. Or you can simply observe it. "Ah, there's an anxious thought," and let it pass, like a cloud drifting by. "But what if the thought keeps coming back?" the student asked. "Then it keeps coming back," the teacher said simply. "But each time you have the same choice. Do I grab onto this thought and make it into a long story about who I am? Or do I acknowledge it and let it pass again?" He smiled gently. "You're not a bad person for having difficult thoughts. You're a human being with a human mind. Your practice is not to control what thoughts arise, but to become wise about how you relate to them. That's what it means to be the guardian of your mind. This is the heart of what the Buddha meant when he said, 'The mind is everything. What you think you become.' He wasn't saying that random thoughts make you a bad or good person. He was pointing to the process of habituation, the way that thoughts you consistently engage with, believe, and act on gradually shape your character. If you habitually entertain thoughts of resentment, feeding them, replaying grievances, building elaborate justifications for your anger, you're training yourself to be a resentful person. If you habitually notice thoughts of resentment, but don't grab onto them, don't make them your identity, don't let them direct your actions, then those thoughts lose their power to shape who you become. This is mental responsibility without guilt. This is being the guardian without being the judge. So how do you practice this in your actual life? Start with simple awareness, what meditation teachers call noting or witnessing. When a thought arises, instead of immediately believing it or getting lost in it, pause and name it. This is worry. This is planning. This is judgment. This is memory. You're not trying to stop the thought or change it, just recognizing it for what it is. A mental event. A cloud passing through. This small act of naming creates space. And in that space, you have choice. The next step is recognizing that you don't have to obey every thought that appears. Just because a thought says, "You're not good enough," doesn't mean it's true or that you have to believe it. Just because a thought says, "You should worry about this all day," doesn't mean you have to follow that instruction. Thoughts are not commands. They're suggestions, and you get to decide which ones to listen to. This practice of creating space between stimulus and response is one of the most transformative aspects of Buddhist training. Something happens. Someone criticizes you. The stimulus arrives. Immediately, a thought arises. "They're attacking me. I need to defend myself." In that instant before you react, you have a choice point. You can notice the thought without immediately acting on it. You can pause and ask, "Is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is this the person I want to be in this moment?" That pause, that's freedom. That's what it means to be the guardian of your mind. Think of mental hygiene the way you think of physical hygiene. You brush your teeth not once but every day because you know that daily care prevents problems. Your mind needs the same consistent tending. This might mean a daily meditation practice where you train yourself to watch thoughts without getting swept away. It might mean regularly checking in with yourself. What have I been feeding my mind today? What seeds have I been watering? It might mean being more conscious about what you consume, not just food, but media, conversations, the content you allow into your awareness. Because all of it plants seeds in your mental garden. The Buddha taught that an untrained mind creates suffering for itself. It's like a wild horse that runs wherever its impulses take it, often straight into danger. But a trained mind, not controlled, but trained, becomes your greatest ally. A trained mind can experience difficult thoughts and not be destroyed by them. It can notice the impulse to react and choose not to. It can watch suffering arise and know, this too is changing, I don't have to make it solid and permanent through my attention. This is why the Buddha emphasized right effort as part of the path. It's not optional or extra, it's essential. You are the one living with your mind every moment of every day. No one else can tend it for you. Take a moment now. Just breathe. Notice what thoughts are present right now. Don't judge them. Don't try to change them. Just notice. Are they planning thoughts? Judging thoughts? Worried thoughts? Peaceful thoughts? And now notice, you are not those thoughts. You are the awareness witnessing them. That awareness, that's who you actually are. Being the guardian of your mind doesn't mean achieving perfection or never having difficult thoughts. It means developing the wisdom to recognize that you have agency in how you relate to your internal experience. It means understanding that while you can't control what thoughts arise, you can absolutely influence what thoughts you cultivate, what patterns you strengthen, what mental states you choose to live from. And this brings us to something beautiful. When you learn to tend your mind with wisdom, you naturally begin to notice what's already there beneath the chaos of thought, a quality of awareness that's already whole, already at peace. And you discover that cultivating gratitude for simply being alive opens you to that peace in profound ways. That's where we're heading next. We move through entire days without noticing what's already here. The morning light coming through the window, the warmth of water in the shower, the fact that we woke up at all. We take it all for granted. These basic conditions of existence, breath, awareness, the capacity to sense and feel and think, we barely register them because they're always there, so ordinary, so constant. Until they're not. And then suddenly we realize what we overlooked. We realize that what seemed mundane was actually extraordinary the whole time. This teaching is about learning to see that extraordinariness before it's too late. About developing what Buddhism calls mudita, a word that's often translated as appreciative joy, but means something deeper, the capacity to recognize and be moved by what's good, what's present, what's supporting your life right now. Mudita is one of the 4 Brahmaviharas, the 4 divine abodes of the heart that Buddhism teaches us to cultivate. Alongside loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity, appreciative joy holds a special place. It's the antidote to taking life for granted. The practice of seeing clearly what's here, what's working, what's holding you up, even when other things are falling apart. In traditional Buddhism, there's a reflection called the precious human birth. The point is to recognize how rare and valuable it is to have the conditions necessary for awakening. To practice the Dharma, these teachings we're exploring, you need to be born in a time and place where these teachings exist. You need the capacity to understand them. You need enough freedom and stability to pause and reflect rather than just struggling to survive every moment. You need to have encountered these ideas somehow, through a teacher, a book, a conversation, a moment of grace that pointed you toward this path. None of that is guaranteed. It's actually extremely rare. Most beings don't have access to teachings about freedom from suffering. Most don't have the leisure to contemplate their minds. Most are caught in circumstances so difficult that spiritual practice feels impossible. But you're here. You have this access. You have this capacity. That's not something to feel guilty about or to take lightly. It's something to appreciate deeply. Because appreciation for these conditions naturally leads to using them well, not wasting them, not sleepwalking through a life that's already offering you what you need to wake up. The Buddha emphasized a quality called santutti, contentment. Not complacency, not settling for less than you deserve, but a profound satisfaction with what is, even while working toward what could be. This teaching isn't about denying pain or pretending everything is fine when it's not. That would be spiritual bypassing, and the Buddha was far too honest for that. Even in the midst of difficulty, there are things that remain. There are conditions still supporting you. There is still something to appreciate, not as a way to ignore suffering, but as a way to see the whole picture clearly. A monk and his student were walking through the mountains on a pilgrimage. They'd been traveling for days, and the student was exhausted, hungry, and increasingly irritable. Everything was wrong. The path was too steep. The weather was too cold. They should have brought more food. The student's feet hurt. His back ached, and he couldn't stop cataloguing everything that was difficult about their journey. After hours of listening to complaints, the monk stopped walking. They were on a high ridge with a vast view, mountains rolling into the distance, sky stretching endlessly overhead, a cool wind carrying the scent of pine. "Sit with me," the monk said gently, lowering himself onto a flat rock. The student sat, still frowning. "Look around," the monk said. "Tell me what you see." "I see mountains," the student said flatly. "I see the path we still have to walk. I see how far we are from any shelter. The monk nodded slowly, his eyes scanning the landscape. I see something different, he said after a while. I see that we have air in our lungs. Clear air, clean air, filling us with life with every breath. He paused, letting that sink in. I see that we have sky above us, not a roof, not walls, but infinite space that no one owns and everyone shares. Another pause. I see that we have earth beneath us, solid and reliable, holding us up with every step we take. I see that our bodies, though tired, are still able to walk, to carry us forward. I see that we have eyes to witness this beauty, ears to hear the wind, skin to feel the cold, which means we're alive. The student looked at his teacher, something softening in his face. We have food in our packs, even if not much, the monk continued. We have each other's company. We have teachings in our minds that give our journey meaning. We have this moment, right here, right now, and this moment is enough. This moment contains everything we actually need to be at peace. He turned to look at his student directly. I'm not saying the path isn't steep or that your feet don't hurt, he said. Those things are true. But they're not the whole truth. The whole truth includes all of this. He gestured to the sky, the mountains, their breathing bodies. And when you see the whole truth, suffering doesn't disappear, but it stops defining your entire experience. The student sat quietly, tears starting to form. I've been so focused on what's hard that I forgot what's here, he whispered. That's what we all do, the monk said gently. We forget. This practice is about remembering. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught about appreciative joy. He said something beautiful. Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful. It's a teaching about perspective, about recognizing that there's always something, some condition, some support, some grace that's still present, still holding you, still worthy of appreciation. This isn't forced positivity. It's not pretending pain doesn't exist or slapping a happy face on genuine suffering. It's seeing clearly, which means seeing all of it, not just the difficult parts that tend to grab all our attention. Buddhist appreciation is about seeing interdependence clearly. It's about recognizing that your life is supported by countless conditions, the air created by trees, the food grown by farmers, the roads built by workers, the teachings preserved by generations of practitioners, the basic fact of being alive in a universe that somehow allows consciousness to exist. You're not appreciating these things to get something in return. You're appreciating them because they're real, they're present, and not seeing them is a form of delusion. Start simply. Once a day, pause and notice 3 things that are supporting your life right now. Not grand things necessarily, but basic things. I have water to drink. I have a place to sleep tonight. I have the ability to see these words or hear these sounds. The more specific, the better. This morning, light came through my window is more powerful than I'm grateful for the sun, because it's immediate, it's real, it's what you actually experienced. And here's the key distinction: appreciation without attachment. You're not grasping at these things, not demanding they stay forever, not building your identity around them. You're simply acknowledging them while they're here. Right now, I have breath, not I must always have breath, or I'm terrified of losing breath. Just, right now, this is here, and I see it clearly. Reflect on the conditions that allow you to practice. Maybe you have time to listen to these teachings because you have a job that gives you stability. Maybe you can focus on inner work because you're not actively fleeing danger. Maybe you have access to wisdom because someone translated these ancient texts, because the internet exists, because your life happened to intersect with these ideas. None of that is your doing alone. You're held up by a vast web of causes and conditions, most of which you'll never know about or meet. When you see this clearly, when you really see how interdependent everything is, a natural appreciation arises. Not because you're trying to be positive, but because you're seeing accurately. Find the extraordinary in the ordinary. The next time you drink water, really taste it. Notice the miracle that this clear liquid sustains your life, that it's available, that your body knows exactly what to do with it. The next time you breathe, notice that you don't have to remember to do it. Your body breathes you, life breathes you, without any effort or control from your conscious mind. These aren't small things made to seem big. These are big things we've trained ourselves to experience as small. Pause for a moment. Notice what's present right now that you've been overlooking. Maybe it's the simple fact that you're alive to hear these words. Maybe it's that you have a mind capable of contemplating these ideas. Maybe it's something as basic as the chair holding you up, the air entering your lungs, the fact that this day happened at all. Touch that appreciation without immediately jumping to what's missing or what's wrong. Not denying difficulty, but not letting difficulty be the only story either. This practice of appreciative joy gradually transforms how you experience being alive. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to be at peace and start recognizing that even imperfect conditions contain support, contain grace, contain enough. And when you develop this capacity to appreciate what's here, you naturally become less reactive, less desperate, less driven by fear that you don't have what you need. Because you start to see you have what you need right now to take the next breath, the next step, the next moment of being present. And that recognition leads naturally to the next teaching, the understanding that if you want your life to change, if you want the world to change, there's only one place that transformation can begin. And that place is closer than you think. We spend so much energy trying to change what's outside us. If only this person would be different. If only this situation would shift. If only the world would finally be the way it should be. We point outward constantly at our circumstances, our relationships, our environment, convinced that fixing what's out there will finally bring us peace inside. But the Buddha taught something that turns this completely around. The only place transformation can actually begin is within you. Not because external change doesn't matter, it does. Not because you shouldn't work toward justice or improvement in the world. You should. But because every authentic change, every lasting shift, every genuine contribution you make starts with your own transformation first. This is hard to accept because it means you can't blame your way out of suffering. You can't point to everyone else who needs to change and say, once they're different, then I'll be okay. The Buddha was uncompromising about this. He taught that you are the only person you have direct power to transform. Everyone else is on their own path, making their own choices, living out their own karma. You can't force anyone to change, no matter how much you want them to. You can't control circumstances, no matter how hard you try. But you can work with your own mind, your own heart, your own responses to life. And here's what's profound. When you change yourself, the world around you changes too. Not because you've magically altered external reality, but because you've altered the person experiencing that reality. And when the experiencer changes, Everything they touch, everything they encounter, everything they contribute shifts as a result. The Buddhist path is entirely focused on self-transformation, not self-improvement in the modern sense of becoming more successful or attractive or impressive, but genuine transformation, the deep change that happens when you stop living from conditioned patterns and start living from awareness, compassion, and wisdom. This transformation ripples outward in ways you can't always see or measure. When you heal something in yourself, let's say you work through your anger and develop patience, you stop contributing that anger to every interaction you have. The people around you no longer encounter your reactivity. They experience something different, and that affects how they respond, which affects others they encounter, on and on, in waves you'll never trace, but are absolutely real. When you cultivate peace in your own mind, you bring that peace into rooms, relationships, conversations. Not by preaching or trying to make others peaceful, but simply by being it. There's tremendous power in coherence, in becoming the thing you want to see, rather than just talking about it or demanding it from others. The phrase, "be the change you wish to see," is often attributed to Gandhi, and while the exact wording varies, the principle is deeply Buddhist. You can't create what you haven't embodied. You can't give what you don't have. If you want more compassion in the world, become more compassionate. If you want more patience, develop it in yourself first. If you want more honesty, more kindness, more clarity, start by cultivating those qualities internally and living them consistently. This isn't about perfection. You won't master every quality, and you'll still make mistakes. But the direction matters. The commitment to working on yourself, rather than endlessly trying to fix everyone else, that's the path. There's a story that captures this teaching perfectly. A young man was constantly frustrated by his family. His parents were critical, his siblings were competitive, his relatives were judgmental. Every family gathering left him exhausted and angry. He went to see a teacher known for her wisdom about relationships and conflict. "They make me so angry," he told her. "No matter what I do, it's never enough for them. They're always finding fault, always comparing, always making me feel small. How do I make them change? How do I get them to see what they're doing?" The teacher listened quietly. Then she stood up and beckoned him to follow her to a small room at the back of her house. In the room was a single piece of furniture, a full-length mirror on the wall. "Stand here," she said, positioning him in front of the mirror. "What do you see?" I see myself, he said, confused by the question. Look more closely, she said. What expression is on your face right now? He looked. His jaw was tight, his eyes hard, his whole posture defensive and closed. I see someone who's angry, he admitted. Now, the teacher said gently, imagine your family is looking at this mirror with you. What do they see? He was quiet for a moment, beginning to understand. They see someone who's already defensive before they even speak, he said slowly. Someone who's ready to fight, ready to be hurt. Exactly, the teacher said. And how do people typically respond to someone who's defensive and closed? They become defensive too, he whispered. Or they attack. The teacher nodded. You've been so focused on wanting them to change, to be kinder, more accepting, less critical. But you haven't looked at what you're bringing into the room. You arrive already wounded, already angry, already convinced they'll hurt you. And that expectation creates the very dynamic you're complaining about. She touched the mirror gently. This is how life works, she said. What you are, you meet. If you bring defensiveness, you'll encounter defensiveness. If you bring judgment, you'll experience judgment, often because you're perceiving it everywhere, even where it isn't. But if you change what's here, she touched his chest, what you meet out there changes too. So I'm supposed to just accept how they treat me? He asked, a flash of the old anger returning. No, she said firmly. I'm not talking about acceptance or approval. I'm talking about transformation. You can't control whether they change. But you can absolutely change how you show up, what you bring, how you respond. And when you change those things, the entire dynamic shifts, not because you've controlled them, but because you've stopped feeding the old pattern. She gestured to the mirror again. Right now you're asking the reflection to smile while you're frowning, she said. It doesn't work that way. Change yourself and watch what happens to the reflection. This is the heart of what the Buddha taught about transformation. He said it explicitly. You yourself must strive. The Buddhas only point the way. No teacher, no teaching, no external force can do your inner work for you. The Buddha himself, the most awakened teacher in the tradition, couldn't make anyone else awaken. He could only point, guide, offer the map. Each person had to walk the path themselves. This is both sobering and empowering. Sobering because you can't outsource your transformation. You can't pay someone to meditate for you, to develop compassion for you, to heal your wounds for you. The work is yours alone. But empowering because it means you're not waiting for permission or perfect conditions or someone else to change first. You can start right now, exactly where you are, with whatever you have. So where do you begin? Start with the most honest question you can ask yourself. What is my part in this? Not what's wrong with everyone else. You already know that list by heart. But what am I contributing to this situation, this relationship, this pattern? This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. Some things genuinely aren't your fault. But even in situations where others have harmed you, you still have agency over how you carry that harm, how you respond to it, how you let it shape you moving forward. Maybe your part is the story you're telling yourself about what happened. Maybe it's the way you shut down instead of speaking up. Maybe it's the grudge you're holding that's poisoning you more than the person who wronged you. Identifying your part isn't about shame. It's about power. Because the parts that are yours are the parts you can actually change. Another place to start: healing one small thing in yourself. Maybe you have a habit of harsh self-talk. Work on that. Every time you catch yourself being cruel internally, pause and choose gentler words. That small change will ripple through everything: your confidence, your relationships, your capacity to be kind to others. Maybe you're carrying resentment towards someone from years ago. Work on that. Not for their sake, but for yours. The weight you're carrying affects how you move through the world, how open you can be, how much peace you can access. Inner healing isn't selfish. It's one of the greatest contributions you can make. Because a healed person doesn't unconsciously spread their wounds to others. A healed person has something whole to offer. And here's something beautiful about this path. Small changes in your internal landscape create disproportionate ripples externally. You shift from blame to curiosity in one conversation, and suddenly that conversation goes somewhere new. You choose patience instead of irritation in one moment, and that moment becomes a turning point in a relationship. You meet your own pain with compassion instead of avoidance, and you develop the capacity to sit with others in their pain too. None of these are grand gestures. They're small, internal shifts. But they change everything because they change who you are, and who you are is what you bring to every single encounter every situation, every moment of your life. The Buddhist teaching isn't that you're broken and need fixing. It's that you have the capacity for awakening, and that capacity is accessed through persistent, patient, compassionate work with your own mind and heart. Take a moment now. Instead of thinking about what needs to change in your life externally, ask, what's one thing I could transform internally? What pattern could I interrupt? What habit could I shift? What wound could I begin to heal? And what would one small step in that direction look like today? Because transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments of choice, repeated over and over until those choices become your new way of being. The world needs your transformation. Not your perfection, not your performance, but your genuine, ongoing commitment to becoming more awake, more compassionate, more free. And that brings us to the final teaching, perhaps the most important one of all. Because at the end of your life, at the end of every spiritual path, you'll discover that no one can walk it for you. The Buddha himself can only point the way. The rest is up to you. These were the last words the Buddha spoke before he died. After 45 years of teaching, after guiding countless students toward awakening, after establishing a path that would endure for thousands of years, he lay down between two trees and gathered his disciples around him one final time. They were devastated, terrified of losing their teacher. Who would guide them? Who would answer their questions? How would they find their way without him? And in that moment of grief and fear, the Buddha offered his final teaching. Be a lamp unto yourself, he said. Be your own refuge. Seek no outside refuge. Hold fast to the truth as a lamp. Hold fast to the truth as a refuge. Not follow me forever. Not you'll be lost without me. Not cling to my teachings as absolute doctrine. Instead, trust what's within you. You have access to the same truth I found. The path is there for you to discover directly. This is perhaps the most liberating and challenging teaching in all of Buddhism. Because it requires something radical, that you stop giving your authority away to external sources and learn to trust your own direct experience of truth. We spend our lives looking outside ourselves for answers. The perfect teacher who will explain everything the right book that will unlock the mystery, the correct tradition that will hand us awakening on a silver platter. We want someone else to tell us what's true, what to believe, how to live, where to go. And while teachers serve a purpose, the Buddha himself taught for decades. They're meant to point you back to yourself, not become a permanent crutch. No teacher, no matter how wise, can meditate for you. They can't experience your life, feel your feelings, or do your inner work. They can share what they've discovered, offer guidance from their journey, show you where to look. But the seeing itself, that has to be yours. Think of learning to swim. Someone can explain the mechanics, demonstrate the strokes, even hold you up in the water at first. But eventually, they have to let go. And you have to discover that you can float, that you can move through water, that you have this capacity within your own body. Spiritual awakening works the same way. At some point, the training wheels come off. You stop endlessly preparing and start actually living what you've learned. You stop collecting teachings and start embodying wisdom. You stop seeking and start seeing. This doesn't mean you stop learning from others or practicing in community. It means your relationship to learning changes. You're no longer an empty vessel waiting to be filled with someone else's knowledge. You're someone developing discernment, testing what you hear against reality, taking what leads to freedom, and releasing what doesn't. The Buddha taught something called Yoniso Manasikara, wise reflection, skillful discernment. It's the capacity to investigate teachings with clear awareness, asking, does this align with my direct experience? Does it lead toward liberation, or just create more dependency? Is this genuine wisdom, or just another comforting story? This kind of discernment develops through paying attention, through testing ideas in the laboratory of your actual life, through trusting your capacity to recognize truth when you encounter it. There's a story about a monk who struggled with exactly this question of inner authority. He had been practicing for years, studying different traditions, sitting with various teachers, trying every technique he encountered. But he felt like he was spinning his wheels. Other students seemed to have insights he couldn't access. He felt lost, like he was missing some crucial piece of the puzzle. One day, exhausted and discouraged, he went to see an elder teacher known for her directness. I've tried everything, he told her. Hours of meditation, studying texts, following precepts, listening to countless Dharma talks. But I don't feel any closer to understanding. What am I doing wrong? What's the secret I haven't found yet? The teacher studied him for a long moment. Then she stood, walked to the altar, where a single oil lamp burned, and picked up an unlit lamp from the shelf. She held it out to him. "Light this," she said. He looked around, confused. "With what? Do you have matches? A striker?" "No," she said. "Just light it." "But I can't light it with nothing," he said. "I need fire from somewhere, from that lamp, or matches, or—" She interrupted gently. "You keep looking outside yourself for what you think you lack. The perfect technique, the right teacher, the missing piece. But what if there's nothing missing? What if you already contain what you're seeking?" She set the unlit lamp down and looked at him directly. "You think you're the lamp waiting to be lit by someone else's flame," she said quietly. "But you're not. You're the fire itself, temporarily forgetting how to burn." Every teacher, every practice, every teaching, they're just wind fanning a flame that never went out. It's been there all along, beneath the doubt and seeking. Something shifted in the monk's chest. All this time, he'd been waiting for someone to give him what he already possessed. "But how do I access it?" he whispered. "Stop performing spirituality as if you're trying to earn something," she said. "Instead, notice the awareness that's already here, the consciousness witnessing these words, present in every breath, aware of every experience. That awareness doesn't need to be created or achieved. It only needs to be recognized." This points to the heart of the Buddha's final teaching. When he said, "Be a lamp unto yourself," he wasn't asking you to become something you're not. He was inviting you to recognize what's already present beneath all the conditioning, all the doubt, all the layers of not enough. The complete teaching says, "Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Hold to the truth within yourself as the only lamp. Let the Dharma be your island, your refuge, but investigate it for yourself." Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, "Make me your permanent refuge," or "Never question these teachings," or "The tradition has all the answers." He points toward your own direct access to truth, your own capacity for awakening, your own ability to know what's real. Yes, He also spoke of taking refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, and the Sangha, the community. But these function as supports for your journey, not replacements for walking it. The Dharma isn't meant to be swallowed whole like dogma. It's meant to be tested, questioned, applied to your life, and verified through direct experience. The Sangha isn't meant to think for you or dictate what you believe. It's meant to support your practice, challenge your blind spots, reflect what they see, while you maintain sovereignty over your own path. Teachers are fingers pointing at the moon. They show you where to look. But you have to see the moon yourself. And if you spend all your time studying the finger, venerating the finger, arguing about whose finger points best, you miss the moon entirely. Awakening isn't something transmitted from teacher to student like a package being delivered. It's something remembered. You remember what's always been true beneath the stories, beneath the fear, beneath the belief that you're inadequate or unprepared. So what does it mean to practice being your own refuge? Start by trusting your direct experience more than second-hand descriptions of reality. If a teaching doesn't lead to more freedom and clarity in your actual life, you don't have to force yourself to believe it just because someone authoritative said it. The Buddha himself was explicit about this. Don't accept my words just because I'm your teacher or because they're written in sacred texts. Test them against your own experience. If they lead toward freedom, wisdom, and peace, then accept them and live them. If they don't, set them aside. That's revolutionary trust in personal discernment. Develop the habit of checking in with yourself before automatically seeking external answers. When facing a decision or difficulty, pause before asking someone else what to do. Sit quietly and inquire, what do I already sense about this? What feels true beneath the noise of fear and conditioning? What does my body know? What does silence reveal? You might be surprised by how much wisdom emerges when you create space to listen. Take the teachings you've encountered and make them yours through lived experience. Don't just repeat concepts you've heard. Test them in your life. See how they work with your unique circumstances, your specific challenges. Let borrowed knowledge become embodied wisdom. There's a vast difference between knowing intellectually that everything changes and actually experiencing impermanence in your body, in your relationships, in your moment-to-moment awareness. The second one, the lived experience, that's genuine understanding. The first is just information. Understand that being your own refuge doesn't mean having perfect certainty or never feeling lost. It means developing trust in your capacity to navigate uncertainty, to sit with not knowing, to take the next step, even when the whole path isn't visible. Your inner knowing isn't a spotlight illuminating everything far ahead. It's more like a candle showing you the next step, and then the next. That's sufficient. You don't need to see the entire journey, just what's immediately before you. And remember that self-reliance doesn't mean isolation. We're interdependent beings in an interconnected world. We learn from each other, support each other, reflect truth back to each other. But there's a difference between learning from others and surrendering your power to them. Between receiving support and becoming dependent. Between being inspired by someone's insight and believing they possess something you fundamentally lack. You can honor teachers while still honoring your own authority. You can practice in community while still walking your unique path. You can receive guidance while still making choices based on your own discernment. Right now, in this moment, feel into what's already present. Beneath the thoughts, beneath the doubt, beneath all the seeking, there's an awareness that's been here all along. It's aware of these words right now. It's been aware through every moment of your life, witnessing everything without being any particular thing. It notices thoughts without being those thoughts. It experiences emotions without being those emotions. That witnessing awareness, that's what the Buddha was pointing to. Not something you need to create or achieve or discover somewhere distant. Just something to recognize, trust, and live from. His final teaching wasn't a burden or abandonment. It was a liberation. He was saying, "You're ready now. You have what's needed. I've shown you where to look, but now comes the part only you can do, seeing for yourself, walking your path, claiming your own freedom. No one can hand you liberation. You have to recognize it's already here." The Buddha knew this. That's why his last words weren't, "Follow my example forever," but "Be your own lamp." Trust yourself. Not the self of ego and fear, but the deeper self, the awareness that's always been present, the wisdom that emerges in stillness, the knowing that exists before thought. That's your refuge. That's your lamp. That's what's been waiting for you to notice it all along. These 10 teachings we've explored aren't separate lessons. They're different angles on the same truth, that freedom is possible, that suffering can be transformed, that peace doesn't depend on circumstances. Everything changes, so hold life lightly. Clinging creates pain, so love with open hands. Peace lives within, so stop searching outside yourself. Your mind shapes experience, so tend it with care. This moment is all you have, so be here for it. Everyone struggles, so meet them with compassion. You're responsible for your inner world, so guard it wisely. Appreciate what's here while it lasts. Transform yourself first, and watch how that ripples outward. And through it all, in every moment, in every breath, in every choice, be your own light. The teachings are here when you need them. The path is laid out before you. But the walking, that sacred, irreplaceable walking, only you can do that. And you're ready. You've always been ready. We've walked through 10 teachings together, ancient wisdom that's as relevant now as it was 2,500 years ago. Everything changes, so hold lightly. Clinging creates suffering, so love with open hands. Peace lives within you, not in circumstances. Your mind shapes how you experience life, so tend it with care. This moment is all you truly have. Everyone, like you, just wants to be free from pain. You're the guardian of your own inner landscape. Appreciate what's here while it's here. Transformation begins with you. And through it all, be your own light. These aren't separate lessons. They're different paths to the same truth. Freedom from suffering is possible through inner cultivation. Not perfection, but practice. Not achievement, but remembering. Thank you for being here for these 3 hours. For listening with an open heart. For choosing to explore these teachings. If one teaching resonated with you, practice that one. You don't need to master all 10. Just live one deeply, and it will transform everything. If it feels right, share in the comments where you're listening from, or which teaching touched you most. We're a community of seekers walking this path together, each in our own way. And now, as we close, receive this ancient blessing. May you be peaceful, May you be free from suffering. May you find the inner stability that doesn't depend on anything outside you changing. May you remember, in every moment, that you have everything you need to take the next breath, the next step, the next moment of being present. Wherever you are, whatever you're facing, may you find your way home to the peace that's always been within you. Until we meet again,